Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Killing two birds with one stone here. I need to water the Phalaenopsis in the kitchen, and it's also a viewer's request to have a look at the Phalaenopsis and a chat about them. So we'll do all that at the same time, and I can go over an ideal world for Phalaenopsis, the store-bought type. I'm not going to go into species because they are many and varied. Well, quite a few and varied. I won't say many. And there's some cool growers in there, but not many. Yeah, so I thought we'd do that today. And we haven't looked at the Phalaenopsis since August. I had a quick look back to see last time we sort of did this in the kitchen. And it was August, so you know, it's like a 3-month update. That's coincidence rather than planned. Right, and the eagle-eyed amongst you will probably notice that the water looks a bit grubby. It's got some moss in it, that's all, because it's been used for something else first. Right, so we will get these down one at a time, water them and have a quick look. Now, because this is not a very good plant, I automatically know it's one of mine, not one of Hannah's, because I look after a fair few of Hannah's down here. Mainly because her flat, she works strange hours. She leaves for work at sort of 3 o'clock in the morning and doesn't get back till after lunch. So there's no point in heating her flat up during that time because she's not there. So from in the evening when she goes to bed, right through till after lunch, her flat gets quite cold. So it's not an ideal world for Phalaenopsis. So that's why a lot of them are down here. They live in the kitchen because it's a place where the night temperatures don't drop down as much here as they do in the grow room. So they stay a bit warmer here. And obviously during the day, in the winter time, it's a bit warmer out here as well. So, I mean, an ideal world. Let's go to the, I'm only on about store-bought Phalaenopsis at the moment. Is this one of mine or one of Hannah's? I think this might be one of mine, but I'm not sure. It's a relatively recent one. It's come from, I don't know where. Oh, it's come from Burnham's basically, and it's got a plant passport on the pot, so it's a relatively recent one from Sarah. Can't remember what the blooms look like. It's got good roots, but these mass-produced Phalaenopsis, I mean, there is one company that actually mass produces in the UK. It's called Double H. It's just up the road from me. It's actually very, very close, but they only deal in trade. They do occasionally sell to the public, but most of the time it's trade only. So you'd need a trade card to go in and buy, and they expect you to buy in bulk, obviously. They supply some of the smaller supermarket chains and garden centres and things. But both they and the ones Germany and Holland, the big huge mass producers, their ideal world is capable of taking Phalaenopsis out of a flask, so you know, deflasking the tiny little seedlings and getting them to bloom in less than 2 years. Don't try and do it yourself because you probably won't. But this one has, you won't be able to see it very well. I'm going to have to play with the light on this one because I'm backlit. But this one has got a little spike starting, little mini phal. I'll break off for a minute. Mojo's out in the garden and he's crying to come back in. I'll be back. Right, probably have to listen to him in the background now. Yes, so in those worlds, those ideal worlds, you're looking at 26 to 28 degrees daytime temperatures, 14 hours of correct lighting, and a reasonable humidity. They don't keep them at really high humidity. I think they're at 26, 28 degrees. I think that you're looking at sort of only 70%, which is not that high for that temperature. So, and then nighttime temperatures, this is during the growth period obviously, nighttime temperatures, they drop down at 5 or 6 degrees, so down to about 22, 23, and then push them on up again for the 14 hours of growing light. And that's how they push them on. They're fed heavily, and because of the temperatures they can keep them constantly moist with good fertilizers and everything, growth hormones and all sorts of stuff that the trade can throw in, and they do very well. And then when they've reached their blooming size, they change the environment quite dramatically. They drop the daytime temperature down to sort of like about 22, 23, and they drop the nights down even further, down to about 18. And they reduce the humidity as a consequence. So it's quite a dramatic change in environment, and they all burst into bloom. So that's how they do it. This is actually a species. It's a Pyloric equestris. I doubt if I'll be able to get that to focus on a bloom. They are very pretty, but tiny. But the spikes keep extending. They keep extending and producing more buds and more blooms. Not a vigorous grower, that's for sure. But it's okay. It's produced some roots in the pot. It's doing okay. That is definitely one of Hannah's. That was bought at Malvern back in the summer. So this is its and that would have been last year, not this summer, come to think of it. I don't think Hannah came this year. No, she didn't. So that would have been last summer that was bought. So this is the spikes that were produced here. Right, so that's that one. Yes, so the environment that these mass-produced Phalaenopsis are grown in is, I would imagine, I'm not saying for everybody, but I would imagine for most people, that is an environment that you can't recreate very well. You certainly wouldn't be able to recreate that in the home very easily. So I'm just getting the scissors out. There's a mealybug down in that leaf joint. I've got a few mealybugs on these, unfortunately, in the kitchen. It's only a couple. They tend to head for the blooms. But yeah, so this is a nice little plant, this is, because it's got the variegated leaves. So it's quite attractive, this one, and roots are going mad on this one. So this is recovered effectively, because this wasn't a very strong plant when it came down here. It had hardly any roots. It wasn't doing very well, and it's certainly perked up now. And the latest leaf it's grown is larger than previous leaves, which is always a good sign with Phalaenopsis. Now these are all in either medium or large bark. Phalaenopsis like air around their roots. And the cooler the temperatures, the more important that becomes, because in an ideal world they would have a wet-dry cycle. Now in those high temperatures you can forget the wet-dry cycle, because they would need to stay moist all the time. Because if they headed towards dryness in temperatures like that, that wouldn't do them any good at all. Now, this one's a little tiny fowl with a little baby plant coming off the base. This one's not doing very well, but it's doing better than it has been, and it's grown a new root here, and it's also growing another new root, so it's doing okay, doing better. But it's incredibly slow growing, and this is one that doesn't get quite so much water because it hasn't got so many roots in the pot to use it up. So just enough to sort of keep it hydrated, really. Yeah, so you've got to watch your temperatures. If you're keeping these store-bought type Phalaenopsis in lower than perfect temperature ranges, then you don't want them wet. You don't want them soggy in those sort of temperatures. The roots won't have it. You also don't want to let your media go off, but I mean I find that I'm growing them best in this, just in bark, and it's the best they've been grown ever. I mean, I didn't grow them very well at the other place because of the cold winter temps, so I just think oh no, so I thought I'd just seen another mealybug on the Equestris, but no. Yeah, so I didn't have the temperatures in the grow room there, whereas here, growing them in the house, they've got the temperatures. This one's got a spike that's branching quite nicely. This is one of Hannah's from the same lot that she bought at Malvern that time. So you know, this one has got mealybugs on the underside of that leaf. Just that one leaf. So I have to watch these, you know, every time I water them I give them a good look over. Underside of the leaf, leaf joint, and round the back of the blooms if it's got blooms. That's their favourite hidey holes. So this again has got a very good root system. It had a good root system when we got it at Malvern, so this one's called Happy Hour, and we will have blooms on this in the not too distant future. Quite a few as well. It's a branching spike. We've got at least 3 branches heading off, so yeah, that should be nice. I can't remember what that one looks like. I think it's whoops, what am I doing? Concentrate. Just tipping water all over the place here instead of back in the pot. Yeah, I think this one's yellow, or white and yellow or something. I can't remember. But it's a nice strong plant. The latest leaf is as big as anything before. It's one of your main things to keep your eye on, is every time you grow a new leaf, it should be at least as big as the previous one. They shouldn't get smaller. As you can see, this leaf is the latest one, and it's slightly bigger than the previous one, which was bigger than the previous one and bigger than the previous one. But something went wrong here. Yeah? Because if you look at the size of that leaf and that leaf, the next 2 weren't as big. And then the next 2, the final 2, were bigger than anything else. So whatever went wrong at that point, probably a repot, set it back, it's doing okay now. So that's that one. Just a couple more. This one's in bloom, and this is one of the new type of Phalaenopsis, new type of hybrid called Big Lip, and you can see they are a totally different shape. The blooms are quite different. The lip is flat against the plant. Yeah? So they are quite a different shape. Some people think they're horrible, some people think they're marvellous. It's all a matter of taste, isn't it? If you'd never seen what they look like normally, you'd just accept those blooms as how they are. It's just that they're, you know, some people just can't cope with different. Anyway, it's a nice strong plant, nice healthy root system. Blooms have been out quite a while now. It is a branching spike, but it's difficult to see because the blooms are quite large and they've all clustered together. But yeah, that one's doing fine. That's U-Pin Easter Island, that one, and again that's another one of Hannah's that she got at Malvern 2 summers ago. She basically had them at her place for a while, and then once the blooms went over, she said could I repot them and then look after them, because she hasn't got the room in her place for plants that aren't in bloom, basically, so they came down here. So this is its blooming that followed on. And then this is the one with the story. This is the one that has a big rock on it to keep it stable. and I'm trying to get it to grow upright. This was my son's, and it was his, I think it was his first ever orchid. And he grew it very well, but he grew it in a glass jar with no drainage whatsoever. And we did the breaking of the glass ceremony not that long ago, where we actually got it out of its glass jar. Had to smash the glass basically, and go very careful not to get any shards in there, because they would be liable to do some damage next time I repot, which will be a long way off. It's in a mixture of large and medium bark. It hasn't recovered from its repot yet because the roots haven't started to grow again, but nonetheless the latest leaf is pushing on. It's not as big as the previous ones, and it may not be because it's been disturbed, yeah, but the one following should be. So as I say, this one came out of a glass jar it was in. Basically it was squashed in there, and it's annoying really. It had been in there about 5 years according to my son. It had a lovely root system, had bloomed every year and was growing really well. And we fuss and bother with all our orchids, and they don't necessarily do as well. So a non-orchid person managed to do really well with that one in a glass jar. Right, so there we go. Or Phalaenopsis are not highlight orchids. They like a medium to bright. They will probably be damaged if the sun gets on them, unless it's really early morning, late afternoon type sun. They will suffer because obviously a lot of people are growing these on windowsills. Windowsills, the damage to plants can be done by sun through the glass when it starts to get strong. Yeah, that will burn the leaves. In addition to that, you can get cold burn. So like if it's really cold outside and they're touching the glass, the leaves, you will get cold burn. And in addition to that, a lot of people don't realise the damage they're doing is that come the night time they draw the curtains with the plant behind, so the plant's trapped between the glass and the curtains, and again in really cold weather the temperature drop in that gap can be quite dramatic. You don't notice sat down cosy on the inside of the curtains, but between the curtains and the glass it can get quite cold, so go steady with that temperature drop. Either bring them inside the curtains for the night or don't draw the curtains. One or the other. Right, so that's the Phalaenopsis. They live on the kitchen windowsill. It's bright, north facing, never gets any sun, but it is a very bright window, so they get good light all the time. They don't get any artificial lighting. You know, when I'm cooking me tea and that, turning the light on in the kitchen makes no difference. The amount of light that comes off of the internal light is nothing. That's not doing anything for them. So that's where they live. They seem to be doing okay. Daytime temperatures, summertime, probably 23, 24, just the normal house temperature that it gets to in the summer. And nighttime temperatures in the summer a bit less. You know, it can vary. Winter time, if we get really cold weather, then the nights are going to drop down to sort of 16 maybe in the house. Maybe a fraction cooler than that because they're on a windowsill, but not too much. And daytime temperature during the winter is the comfortable temperature for me to live in, which is around 20, 21. And occasionally when I fall asleep in the chair, 22, 23, because the heating's still on and I've forgotten to turn it off. Right, so there we go, a look at the Phalaenopsis and a chat about how they are grown for mass production. That is what I would call a perfect world for growing these type of complex hybrid Phalaenopsis. It is a perfect world, and they will do brilliantly and respond really well. But to recreate those conditions is very difficult. You'd have to have a dedicated area, and unless you live in the tropics, you're going to be spending an awful lot of money on heating. Unless you've got huge solar panels all across the top of your greenhouse. Anyway, there we go. Thanks for dropping by. See you next time.